Earlier I went up by Topanga Canyon and the internet like just goes out up there. So then I was like in and out, and then my friend just said that it was looping. So I'm trying to come back on. I'm trying to run up these watch hours. I'm out here in Santa Monica. I'm doing Uber Eats. I did like 2 ride shares. I want to get some of this crap out of my car, like, and probably vacuum the car. And maybe if I have time, I'm going to look at Roadie and try to watch the videos. I don't want to be just driving around. I'm going to go park somewhere and try to see if I could do the Roadie video until I get my next request. Every time I'm ready to do the request, I get like a Uber customer. Thank you for letting me know. It sucked. I was up in Topanga Canyon and went out the internet. Hey Corey, thank you guys for coming back. Sometimes you go to places and there's bad reception. So, temporary experience, Antoine, tell us everything that you ended up eating, because I seen the bacon going. It looked like you had a pancake. What all did you make over there? Corey, you done for the day? I need to get my nails done, you guys. One of them's like breaking off. When they start breaking, it's time for go. I should probably go there now. I don't know. I think it's... I don't know. Maybe I'll go over there now. If it's dead, I'll just go over there now. We'll go see. Go see if my nail shop's open. We'll play it by ear. Doing it, you're just stuck. Right? Thank you, Antoine. I didn't even know. I'm like, am I on? Am I off? I'm trying to get these watch hours in. So we trying to go hard. I'm just about to head out to go bowling. Oh, fun times. Fun times. I love the food at the bowling alley. Like the freaking, I always tell you that. The little mozzarella sticks and the fried mushrooms. Oh, we got possibly a customer. Pancakes and bacon. Your pancakes look small. We got a customer, you guys. So that means going back to audio. Oh, shit, this is a one-way street.
Turn right, then turn right on Olympic Boulevard.
This is a verified safe space. That's funny. It's been verified by the LGBTQ community. You're stupid.
Just ahead, turn left on Pico Boulevard.
What? You're funny. Please report any hateful comment. Yeah, they better not say nothing over here.
Turn left on Pico Boulevard.
That's so funny that they said that. Oh, I have been verified as an LGBTQ member. I didn't even check that off. Now I'm a member. Fuck it. I'm like, what?
Using the left 2 lanes, turn left on Lincoln Boulevard, then turn right on Michigan Avenue.
Is that real? Is that somebody's account, or do they just have that? Damn, 26 people within seconds. You're a verified member. Did you know that? No, is this real, or is this somebody's account? I don't know how I got put in there. Hey, we love everybody. We love everybody. I guess I'm a queen for real. I'm a queen. Mike the Bike Dasher. How are you doing with the popcorn? You and Glitch like that popcorn. That's good to see you, Mike. I know I need to go visit your screen. We're about to pick somebody up, you guys, so I'm going to go to audio because Uber be tripping. I'm doing pretty good. A little hungry, like usual. How are you doing? How are you and Lucy doing?
Turn right on Michigan Avenue, then turn left on Lincoln Court.
It looks freaking legit, didn't it? I'm like, I never seen no notification like that.
Turn left on Lincoln Court, then make a U-turn.
Hold You guys, I gotta put you guys back to audio. It's coming out. Dang, they're riding my tail. Lincoln Court. I don't know if this is Lincoln Court. Maybe. Is this Lincoln Court?
What is it?
Lincoln Court. I think I'm supposed to pick that girl up, maybe. Maybe. I can't.
Take a U-turn to stay on Lincoln Court, then pick up Francesca.
Francesca. Hi. Francesca?
Francesca, yeah, it's my sister.
Okay. Okay. Did you pick up? Yes, start. I didn't know this was a street.
Take a
Oh, yeah,
U-turn to
it's
stay
kind of
on
like,
Lincoln
it kind of
Court,
is, but
then
kind of
turn
is.
right on
Right? It's
Michigan
a weird
Avenue.
place.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see where we're going. What? Okay.
Turn right on Michigan Avenue, then turn right on Lincoln Boulevard. Turn right on Lincoln Boulevard.
And they keep stomping on you. I just pray one day that y'all wake up. Right now, some entertainment news. Former NFL player Doug Martin dies in police custody. I'm just now finding out about this person, so I would like to hear your reflections on it, Cuban. I'll paint the picture. This from ESPN. Doug Martin, all-pro running back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, died in police custody early Saturday morning after an incident at a residence in Oakland,
I'll take something when I'm at work.
Oakland police reported that officers responded to a call of a break-in just after 4:15 a.m. Saturday and encountered Martin. Quote, prior to his death, Martin was involved in a break-in at a residence in Oakland. Statement from the Oakland paramedics responded to the scene, provided medical aid, and transported Martin to a local hospital where he later died. Martin was 36. Athletes First, which represented Martin when he was in the NFL, issued a news release Monday night that said he battled mental health challenges that profoundly impacted his personal and professional life. As part of the release, the agency also said Martin's family sought to clarify the circumstances of his death. Quote, Doug's parents were actively seeking medical assistance for him and had contacted local authorities for support. Feeling overwhelmed and disoriented, Doug fled his home during the night and entered a neighbor's residence 2 doors down, where he was taken into custody by police. An investigation into what transpired as he was detained is underway. This is from Athletes First. OPD said that, consistent with department policy, the in-custody death is being investigated by the Homicide Center,
Oh,
the
God,
Internal Affairs
Jesus.
Bureau, the Oakland City Police Commission, the Community
Drop
Police
something on
Review
us. I was
Agency,
like,
and the
oh, no.
Alameda County District Attorney's Office. Go ahead, Q. Why don't you start? Because there's one thing that if you don't say it, I want to make sure I shoehorn it in here.
So, as is typically the case when it comes to anything involving or related to sports, my brother assigns me the expert in his own mind. Except this story has very little to do with sport.
Okay.
Almost nothing at all.
Okay.
This story has a lot to do with what Rambus and I have both kind of become experts at covering.
Sure.
And it's law enforcement, unarmed black man, mysterious accountability measures. Right? The Oakland Police Department has said this in-custody death is being investigated by the Oakland Police Department. I'll stop there. The Oakland City Police Department has stated that this in-custody death is being investigated by the Oakland Police Department. I wish you guys could see us, right? Because there's like pauses here where our facial expressions are doing the talking. I'm gonna read this again because it's typed out so beautifully in the press release. I just want people to understand it as thoroughly as I do or not. The Oakland Police Department said that, consistent with department policy, the in-custody death, by in-custody death, they mean this man died while in custody of the Oakland Police Department, the same police department who issued the statement, and the same police department who's investigating themselves for this in-custody death.
Real quick, Q. One time you said it beautifully. You were like, "So the police. It just lives in my head rent free."
The police is crazy.
You said it. I remember.
Now listen, Ramses and I probably, I won't say more because I'm sure there's others, but as much as anyone on planet Earth feel that police accountability is an absolute necessity. It's just having the police. You understand what I'm saying? It just seems like a strange strategy. Actual accountability. And how this is framed earlier in the press release. After being taken into custody, Martin became unresponsive.
Right.
Right. What I'm saying?
Right. Can I jump in? This is the part I wanted to. So I'll help you paint this picture. So, one of the things that we know is that this is the thing that we study. For folks that don't listen to our other show, Civic Cypher, that show is kind of our long-standing show, nationally syndicated. We're on 151 stations around the country every week, and we started and we still do cover police killings, police overreach, particularly as it relates to unarmed, marginalized people in this country. The lack of accountability, the indoctrination of the population via what is known as propaganda, police tactics like this, where they're intentionally vague. So you could read the statement and you wouldn't know if the police injured someone or someone injured the police. Officer involved shooting comes to mind. That's a deliberate phrase used by police departments around the country.
In a quarter-mile, turn left on Montana Avenue using the left lane.
Any potential accountability, right? If you ever notice people filming police as they're making an arrest, the extra police officers that are getting paid that aren't actively arresting a person are taught to stand in the line of sight so that people cannot film police injustice taking place, right? Obviously, we all know well about ICE and the covering of the faces and that sort of thing. You know, this is to separate these people from accountability. Now, one thing that we know to be true, it's sort of like the Stanford experiments or the old
Turn
adage
left on
that,
Montana Avenue.
to the hammer, all the world's a nail, or however that's stated. You give people that type of power. What is it? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's a reason these statements exist. And I can't say it's true across the board, but it is especially true when indeed there is power, right? If you looked at the recruiting tactics of police, they go after people who have bullyish.
Isn't spumani a dessert?
Well, we have desserts, yes, but like, it's also a restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I used to have that as a child. Have a good one.
Me too. Oh, me too.
Bye. Alright, you guys, we are back. Whoever's hanging on, thank you. Doing fine, was out town visiting family today. How's the family doing? Oh, it's a joke. That's a fake show. Bastards. That was funny. I'm like, it looks so freaking real though. But it was kind of weird. But okay. I was like, damn, YouTube is coming up with all kinds of crazy stuff. But thank you, whoever's holding down the string. Dang, Sam Lane, $2.50 in 12 hours. That's good. Some days I'm gonna have to go hard because the cost of living is going up. But what I'm gonna do is trying to figure out some ways to make money quicker. I'm about to give you some t-shirts. I want my business to go from just pastries to carrying something with protein. I want to get like a food truck. But I think I need employees more than anything. Because I want to travel. I don't want to be stuck dealing with my business all the time. I want to be able to leave and have my business still going. So I need to find some employees. I'm looking to how much a food truck costs and a food trailer, one or the other. Hopefully it pays off in the long run. I need something that's nutritious, not just desserts. Although their successful businesses just sound desserts. But I want to add some other stuff in there. So I can make money regardless. And if I have a business and your business is doing good, you can make that amount real quick. I got to get regular customers. I need to get at least 10 regular customers. Let me watch the video. Is it only good for like certain hours? I'm gonna make sure I'm not blocking nobody or anything crazy. I was on Spark the other day. I'm hoping one of these days they'll call me. Is Spark hard, you guys? Is that the one where they make you carry all those bottled waters? I don't want to be carrying anything too heavy, to be honest. My knee still hurts. My back hurts. Oh, okay. Oh, we got a customer. Okay. Maybe. I think tomorrow that'll be on my list of things to do the roadie. Because every time I'm about to do it, something else pops up. I was watching a little video and then I got like a customer request. Let's see if we could jump on there now. Nope, we got a customer. Money. Sure money versus no money. We're going with the sure money for now. So one of these days I will do the roadie. Thank you for reminding me, you guys. Keep on reminding me. We got options. What are you having for dinner, Sam Lee? Anything good? I have a lot of good food at the house.
Just ahead, turn left on Idaho Avenue.
Idaho. Sound like they're saying I'm a hoe. Idaho.
Turn left on Idaho Avenue, then turn left on 4th Street.
Just so you guys know, I'm about to pick up somebody, so I'm going to go to audio. I don't want these snitches crying and stuff.
Turn left on 4th Street, then pick up Mona.
Alright, audio, you guys. Going just to audio. I'm here, so you guys are welcome to chill on my stream. Leave some comments. Like it's your last comments to me. Alright, let's see here.
Pick up Mona.
Mona, I don't think that. Mona sounds like a woman's name, I would assume. I don't know. 846-834. Where's that at? getting closer. There we go. I used to know a girl named Mona. I've arrived when I was a child. I haven't heard that name for a while. She was kind of like a sister-in-law. Well, not really. It was my mom's friend's daughter. Oh, you were in Burbank and downtown earlier? How was that? Arroz Chateau. Were you having that Peruvian food again? You're always eating the good stuff. Alright, I got a customer, so I have to respond back to that food later and find out what it is. Hi, for Mona. Alright.
Head to your drop off at Hotel Bel Air.
Okay. Yeah, go for it. Or do you want the air on? Let me know.
Either one. Can I put? I just need to dry my hair a little bit.
Okay.
My
Is it
makeup
unlocked?
all day. No, it's locked.
Okay. I hate when I do that. I always do that by accident.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't allow enough time to dry my hair.
My mom and the blow dryer.
Yeah.
And me, I'm like, I'm lazy when it comes to my hair. Whatever. I used to do all that stuff to my hair, and then my face would break out from like all the stuff I put in there.
Of the era of the Great Depression, and is the author of 10 books, including the Encyclopedia of the Great Depression, and most recently, The Times They Were A-Changing. 1964, the year the 60s arrived and the battle lines of today were drawn. He is currently completing a book with the working title An Agreed Upon Fiction, A New History of Power and Authority, How the Lie of Women's Inferiority Arose, Shaped History, reveals
Turn right on
historic
San
periods of
Vicente
today,
Boulevard.
and how exposing it can save democracy. And he writes a subset column, Musings and Amusings. Then finally, as more and more Americans wake up to the tearing down of the entire east wing of the People's House, the White House, and turn it into a glittering golden palace for Trump and his billionaire backers, with a ballroom that will double the size of the existing complex, we will look into how it got so far without oversight,
Turn right on San
and what can
Vicente
be done to
Boulevard.
restrain Trump's gilded excess of ego gratification. Joining us is Priya Jain, Associate Professor in the Department of Architecture at Texas A&M University. She has worked on the reuse and restoration of a diverse range of historically significant buildings, including Trinity Church in Boston, St. Elizabeth's Hospital of the Department of Homeland Security in Washington, D.C., and J. Salma Fort in India, among others. She serves as chair of the Heritage Conservation Committee of the Society of Historians. And joining us now, Abbott, who is a professor of political science at Cal State Los Angeles and the director of the Center for Working Class Politics with nearly 2 decades of experience in progressive politics and the labor movement. His research focuses on class politics, participatory democracy, and the left in the United States and Latin America. And his work has been published in a range of political science journals and media outlets, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, BBC Radio, The Guardian, The American Prospect, The Nation, The New Left Review, and The Boston Review, among others. And he has a recent article at The Guardian, A New Generation of Populists is Showing Democrats How to Defeat Trump. Welcome to Background Briefing, Jared Abbott.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us, Jared. And as much as your recent article is about a certain amount of enthusiasm on the Democratic left, if you will, of the party, particularly amongst young people, and that's very much the catalyst of that, I think, is Zohran Mamdani in New York. There are some problems, surely, particularly in the race in Maine with Graham Plattner, the so-called Oyster Man, who my early coverage of him was all giddy with excitement and a lot of money poured into his campaign. And then later we found out from some of his early Reddit posts that he called himself a communist, referred to police as bastards and a den of overweight pansies. He called himself an Antifa super soldier. And then it even got worse when he revealed Nazi tattoos on his torso. So, and of course he said to do with PTSD, having served in Iraq and Afghanistan. So, is this a kind of repeat of what happened with Fetterman, where we all were so caught up with this guy with his tattoos and his hoodie, and he seemed like a real breath of fresh air as a sort of regular guy. But now with his voting record in the Senate, he's a huge fan of Netanyahu's, and he's breaking ranks with the Democrats over the Republicans' version of the very reason why the Democrats have shut down the government.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, these are very different cases. Fetterman, you know, what he ran on and how he related to working class voters and his sort of down to earth and, you know, kind of no bullshit affect was genuinely positive, and that's a model that, you know, other Democrats and other progressives are taking up, and I think that's a really good thing. And the fact that he, you know, his positions on political views changed later, you know, that's a separate issue. But in the case of Plattner, you know, I mean, all I think that this shows is that, you know, sometimes, you know, these sorts of candidates, you know, have individual foibles which make them not our ideal tribute. But I don't think it says anything about the broader project of trying to get more candidates who are, you know, organic working class tribunes who can relate to and who come from working class communities in red and purple states, and who can effectively put forward a vision for, you know, the future of the country and for the economic life of working class people that, you know, cuts through some of the difficulties that Democrats have been having with respect to working class voters over the past few decades. And in the case of Plattner, you know, I'm not an expert in this, so I can't say too much, but I mean, the fact is, he didn't come from as far as I've read, he doesn't come from a working class background himself. You know, not that you have to, Fetterman didn't, but, you know, it's not super surprising that somebody, you know, who went to you know, relatively, I think, a relatively affluent private school, and he came from a sort of middle class background, you know, that's not super uncommon that, you know, they end up having at least a period in their lives when they have, you know, some of these more far left views that he apparently had. And so, you know, I don't find that to be terribly surprising. How does it relate to Mamdani? You know, not necessarily much at all, except insofar as, you know, both of these examples, for better or worse, are going to be used, of course, by Republicans to smear, you know, progressives and Democratic economic populists all around the country, as, you know, they're going to take the things that Mamdani has said in the past, you know, that he's not saying anymore, but, you know, that he did say in the past that were more extreme positions that are not necessarily the views of most working class people, and they're going to take Plattner's, you know, all the things that you just mentioned, and turn those into an argument or a kind of a line that, you know, you can't trust any of these economic populist progressives. They're all commies in disguise. And so, you know, that's a real problem for progressives, and it's really unfortunate that this is happening now, and, you know, distracting from the much broader
In a quarter
set
mile,
of
turn
really
left on
great,
South
you know,
Saltier
progressive
Avenue.
economic, you know, populist candidates, including the governor, you know, Troy Jackson running for governor of Maine in the same state, but also Dan Osborne in Nebraska, and Nathan Sage in Iowa, and many others, Rebecca Cook in Wisconsin, who are great economic populist candidates, who are organic, sort of like working class champions. And you know, it's just sad that this is going to take attention away from those stories, at least for a little while.
Right, but I wouldn't, Jared, I wouldn't worry about Mamdani. He's so good.
He's a great politician.
Handling the press.
Not going to hurt him, but it might hurt other Democrats, unfortunately, you know, in other parts of the country is a concern. But that's not Mamdani's fault. He can't, you know, he can't control what happens, you know, outside of New York City, and nor should he. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of different types of progressives and a lot of different types of Democrats. They're running in very different electoral contexts, and I think Democrats just need to get a little bit more used to that. And the Mamdani running in the same party as sort of economic populists that have a much different profile on certain issues. That's not necessarily a problem. That shows that Democrats and progressives are getting smarter and they're learning how to be more effective in different sorts of electoral contexts.
Right. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about here, the prize is winning back the Senate
Yes.
and the House. Now, the Supreme Court under John Roberts, who is the leading Republican strategist for decades, he's been working assiduously behind the scenes to create a one-party Republican state in the United States. And now he's going to bring us back to Jim Crow by getting rid of all of the black representatives in the South. So they'll automatically pick up probably 12 at least seats, which makes it an even heavier lift for the Democrats to win back the House, which is an absolute necessity. And then you've got all the gerrymandering, organizing with Texas, and the counter weight here in California with Prop 50. So the House is a heavy lift. But the Senate, what I find tragic about the Plattner situation is that Susan Collins was the most beatable Republican candidate. And then a lot of criticism, and I'm pretty sure I joined in the criticism of Chuck Schumer going for the 77-year-old Janet Mills as a candidate instead of Plattner. But now it's beginning to look like Plattner is a gift to Susan Collins. I mean, it's even possible that she could retain the seat.
Yeah, without a doubt. And as you said, the fact that we're seeing this Supreme Court decision around gerrymandering means that the electoral math in the House is maybe it's not quite as dire as in the Senate, even after this vote, but they're looking a lot closer. And it just sort of underscores the absolute necessity for progressives and Democrats to find ways to compete in more red-leaning districts and states. And there's basically no other alternative, especially given the new electoral landscape in terms of the geography of the House that you mentioned. And so I think, yeah, it is tragic that that's what's happening in Maine. I would still take Janet Mills over Susan Collins. I hope you probably do it too. But obviously, we want to try to build not just any Democrats getting into office. As progressives, we want to have not just any Democrats getting in, but ones that are putting forward a really alternative vision of what it means to be a Democrat, so that we can finally try to win back the trust of more working class people, among whom the Democratic brand is very, very, very toxic, and we need to have more people like the working class sort of like outsider populist that Plattner was embodying. And yeah, it's sad that that's happening, but I don't think it means that all hope is lost. We have, like I said, a lot of other really interesting candidates that are going to be competing and trying to put forward this model of doing economic populism all around the country. And we just have to keep moving forward along those lines, because it's the most promising path forward, I think, for trying to win that coalition that we absolutely need to put the brakes on what the Trump administration is doing after the midterms.
Well, Bernie Sanders and AOC had a very successful nationwide tour that attracted hundreds of thousands of people. Millions, was it? Yeah, I'm sure. Well, it was the anti-oligarch brand.
Oh yeah, the polling group.
Something like that. At any rate, clearly that message resonates. So let's talk a little bit about the good news. And by the way, I watched the CNN town hall.
Turn left on South
with
Saltaire
AOC
Avenue.
and Bernie, and it's so interesting that Bernie is in the very age group that a lot of Democrats are saying, that's the gerontocracy we've got to get rid of. It's amazing that somebody of his age appeals to the young, and AOC was extremely impressive as well. So walk us through some of the other names that you gave, Dan Osborne and others. In other words, where's the good news here? Because I'm sick of hearing Democrats dump on Democrats. It just seems to be a kind of, I don't know, it seems to be a free-for-all. Of course, the numbers and the polls look terrible for the Democrats. But on the other hand, they seem to be winning elections, which maybe there's some life left in them.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's life left in them, and Trump's not doing himself any favors by his extreme overreach on a whole host of domestic policies and the way that he's handling the shutdown, and so that's to some degree Democrats are going to be doing just by the fact that this is a midterm election and that the economy. The jobs numbers are slowing down, and the effects of the tariffs, haven't felt that strongly yet. They're like coming up, and Trump has been underwater his support, for a long time, and he remains 8 to 10 points underwater. And his numbers about the way that he handles different aspects of the economy and different policy areas, those are also underwater. Ranking many polls, including his handling immigration, interestingly, and so that's all going to work in the Democrats' favor. But still, what you were saying about the House, I mean, it's true that they're going to have to.
In a quarter mile, make a slight right turn on Kearsarge Street.
Generic ballot, 5 or 6 points perhaps, in order to overcome that disadvantage in terms of the new geography of the House. But I do think that there are candidates out there that, like I said, that are inspiring. Dan Osborne, you mentioned, so many guys, dramatically, he overperformed, based on expectations from Harris in 2024 more than any other Senate candidate in the country. And he still lost because in Nebraska, which is a very, very, very red state. And, but still, like, he showed that, if you have a strong economic populist,
Make a slight right turn on Kearsarge Street.
try to speak to your voters in a way that they can understand and that they don't feel condescending to. They feel that you are hearing what they care about and not what you're saying. And then in this case, you're showing that
Just ahead, turn left on Southwest Gate Avenue.
way, then you are going to be in a pretty good position. But there's also other folks that are running as independents. Like I said, there's an interesting primary race in Iowa.
Turn left on Southwest Gate Avenue.
The name Nikki saying, who's running a similar playbook. We don't know how he's going to do it, but he's sort of carrying the same sort of economic populist mantle. Taking the Democratic Party and the fact that they've been, not in the Senate working for decades, and lost that basic sense of being a party.
Just ahead, turn right on West Sunset Boulevard.
We're seeing candidates like this emerging from places. So I think the fact that we've had this issue, that grandfathers had this issue, that doesn't take away from the broader.
Turn right on West Sunset Boulevard.
We're seeing in terms of more authentic, organic, economic populist, running in places outside of, deep blue districts.
Well, but Jared, given what a threat Trump is to this country and to the world and to American democracy or democracy itself, it's just so horrendous what this man is and what he represents. And it just gets worse by the day. And now, he's asking for compensation for the
Yeah.
government. That means you and I, taxpayers, we have to pay Trump $230 million because of all the criminality that he was charged with by Mueller and Jack Smith, which he managed to dodge that bullet because he's always been one step ahead of the sheriff. So that's just an example of the brazenness. But I don't need to go on with the list of horrors. But what it says to me is that the same issue was with Biden, and he was a catastrophe because he hid his infirmities so late in the game that it all came out with that disastrous first and only debate he did with Trump. But this time around, surely the Democratic left and the Democratic center can't afford the luxury of being at war with themselves. I mean, this is a 5-alarm fire. What can be done to get past, the internecine struggle, if it's even a struggle or an annoyance or whatever it is? Because there's a pathology in politics that I've never understood, which is that people on the left are more angry with somebody on the left that's slightly to the right of them than they are to somebody like Trump. And the same applies on the Republican side. Republicans are more angry at rhinos than they are at Democrats. So is this a vain hope on my part that people in this country, the majority in this country, will unite around the clear and present danger of Donald Trump?
I sure hope not, because like you said, there's really no other option for us at this point, right? I mean, there's going to be, we saw the No Kings protests this weekend, which were huge all around the country, and we know from previous examples, from around the world of authoritarian backsliding that, that work that's going on outside of the electoral system is also going to be really important in putting the brakes on, some of the more egregious things that the administration is doing and trying to put a backbone into the corporations and universities and even elected officials who maybe have an interest in sort of pushing back but don't feel like they have the support, or that maybe they're going to be out there hanging on a limb. So that extra institutional peaceful protest needs to expand. It needs to be focused not just on how bad Trump is in terms of the way that he's attacking our institutions, which obviously is fundamentally important, but it also needs to be focused on the ways that he's screwing over farmers and the ways that he's taking away investments for communities that came from during the Biden administration that were going to create jobs and we're going to help rebuild struggling deindustrialized towns and areas. So it needs to be all of that. And then on the electoral side, the problem is that many Democrats are, they're more concerned about their primary electorate than they are about the general electorate. And most Democrats are running in places where they don't, they're not challenged. And that's the same thing, even more so for the Republicans, right? Like there's something like 130 Republicans in the Congress that are running in districts that are, just never going to be challenged. And so we need to find a way. I completely agree with you. How we do it, I think the dire nature of the situation is probably, nothing like the prospect of being hanged in a week to concentrate the mind. I think Samuel Johnson said at one point, sort of the situation that we're in. And people need to wake up and say that it's okay that we allow sort of more mainstream or more moderate Dems running in certain places. That's better than having the Republican, right? Because just like you said, we're in a situation right now that there's really no, we don't have the luxury of fighting between Democrats. We have to stop the Republicans. And in order to do that, the centrist Democrats are going to have to, just stop worrying about the progressives who are going to do their thing, and they're entitled to do that, and they're a part of the party. And on the other hand, the progressives need to say, look, we're going to give some flexibility to candidates out there, that are on the front lines in these red and purple districts, and we need to focus on priority number one, which is stopping the Republicans, because there's no better way to fight for the rights, the civil rights of trans people. There's no better way to fight for the rights of undocumented folks that are being terrorized every day than to stop the Republicans, right? That's priority number one. I couldn't agree more with you that, both sides of this battle within the Democratic Party need to keep their eye on that prize and to basically let the other side do what they do so that we can have a big tent that can get bigger and bigger and win back the working class voters we need to stop the Republicans in 26 and 28.
Well, Jared Abbott, I thank you very much for joining us here today.
All right, thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
And again, I'm speaking with Jared Abbott, who is a professor of political science at Cal State Los Angeles and director of the Center for Working Class Politics, with nearly 2 decades of experience in progressive politics and the labor movement. His research focuses on class politics, participatory democracy, and the left in the United States and Latin America. And he has a recent article at The Guardian, A New Generation of Populists is Showing Democrats How to Defeat Trump. We're going to take a brief station break and back looking into concern from Wall Street insiders and warnings about today's market bubble and its similarity to the build-up to the 1929 crash and the Great Depression.
Even if you're never right, they get uptight when you got too right, or you might start thinking too much. So how it feels when you know for real, but every other time, you get a raw deal.
this is Background Briefing at 24/7, backgroundbriefing.org. And joining us is Robert McIlvaine, a professor of history and chair of arts and letters at Millsaps College. He is considered one of the world's leading historians of the era of the Great Depression and is the author of 10 books, including the Encyclopedia of the Great Depression, and most recently, The Times They Were A-Changing, 1964, the year the 60s arrived and the battle lines of today were drawn. He is currently completing a book with the working title An Agreed Upon Fiction, A New History of Power and Authority, How the Lie of Women's Inferiority Arose, Shaped History, Fuels Authoritarianism Today, and How Exposing It Can Save Democracy. And he writes the Substack column Musings and Amusings. Welcome to Background Briefing, Robert McIlvaine.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Well, thanks for joining us, Robert. And it looks as if so many bad things are converging here. The possibility of a new depression, certainly a recession. We're hearing warnings from Wall Street's Jamie Dimon and others. Andrew Ross Sorkin of the New York Times has a new book out called 1929, in which he says there's an uncanny and disturbing comparisons to what was happening in 1929 and what is happening today on Wall Street with the run-up in tech stocks and particularly AI. And on top of that, you have examples of the new Gilded Age with Trump building this ballroom that's going to double the size of the White House, being paid for by billionaires who presumably will be waltzing under the chandeliers in the gilded 90,000-foot ballroom. So, as an historian, how close are these analogies, or how disturbing are they?
Yes, I'm afraid we are. Nonsense in the 1920s are being echoed now only louder, which I guess may not work in terms of actual meaning of echo. But I think the basic problem is going back even to the original Gilded Age in the late 19th century, Republicans have always had the philosophy, and William Jennings Bryan put it in his famous Cross of Gold speech at the 1896 Democratic Convention, that the Republicans believe if you just keep making the rich richer, it will trickle through on everyone else below. But the Democrats believe if you make the masses prosperous, everybody will rise with them. And the thing is, this trickle-down economics, it's gone under different names, recently called supply-side economics. Every time it's tried, it fails, and yet they keep trying it again. I like to compare what Franklin Roosevelt said during the 32 campaign. What you need to do is try a method, and if it doesn't work, throw it away and try something else, but above all, try something. Well, Herbert Hoover never used these exact words, but Hoover's approach, and generally that has been the approach of Republicans all along, you take the idea, because they think there's only one, try it, and if it doesn't work, try it again. If it doesn't work, try it again, but above all, keep trying the same thing. And so they were doing that in the 20s and into the 30s, and they're trying it again. They tried it in the 80s under Reagan, they tried it under George W. Bush. Always leads to disaster, and I don't see any reason to think it will again.
But of course, after William Jennings Bryan ran against McKinley was shot, assassinated at his inauguration, and the vice president, Teddy Roosevelt, was put on the ticket to balance the incredible plutocratic influence of McKinley. He turned out to be a reformer. It was later that the Roaring Twenties went crazy with some really undistinguished American presidents leading up to Hoover, and it all came to a crashing, painful end in 1929.
Yeah, and you can say, well, talking about tech stocks now and how their prices have just kept going up and up. It was basically the same thing in the 20s. The 20s was the first time that the economy came to really be based on consumer spending. And when it's based on consumer spending, consumers have to have enough money to buy the things that are coming off the assembly lines. And basically they didn't. So the wealth had been concentrated, Lord knows how it was concentrated in the Middle Ages or something, but it didn't matter that much because the economies were not based on consumption. but they weren't very much in the 20s. Relatively new industries like the automobile, brand new industries like radios, household appliances, all these things were coming on the assembly lines, and people had to find some way to have enough money to buy them. Henry Ford had understood this going into the previous decade when he said he was going to pay his workers an unheard of, I believe it was $5 a day, because he said that they had to be able to buy the cars. But basically the economy, the other businessmen, and even Ford himself didn't follow that in the 20s. And you had more and more of the benefits of these new things that were being made going to people who had the stock, and the stock market kept going up. But of course, people were never satisfied with making a lot of money. And so what happened in the stock market was sort of a preview of that earlier in the 20s with a Florida land boom. As automobiles became more common and roads were built, those who had some means could drive from the northeast to Florida to get away from the cold weather. And so the idea was in like 1923 to 25 that Florida land was just going to keep getting more and more expensive, and people could invest in it. And they would be buying places that were listed as beachfront property that were actually 30 miles inland in a swamp. But it didn't really matter because they were buying it just as the price was going up. And they would sell it to somebody else who thought he was no fool either, because he was buying it because the price would keep going up. But of course, inevitably, they keep going up and then they crash, and that happened after a couple of hurricanes. Well, after that had happened in the mid-20s, people started looking much more to Wall Street as their place of speculation. And stocks, the sort of comparisons, the tech stocks of today would be RCA, Radio Corporation of America, which kept soaring. Just in the year 1928, it went up by something like 345%. But even that was not what seemed to be available to the get-rich-quick people, because you could buy on margin. You could put up maybe 10 to 20% of the price and borrow the rest from the broker. And if you did that with RCA at the beginning of 1928, by the end of 1928, when you paid back the broker loan, you would have made a profit of 3,400%. So that was kind of irresistible.
But obviously the analogies with today aren't quite as stark, in the sense that these tech stocks and AI stocks, you can't buy on margin, can you? And that's what Glass-Steagall came in after the crash, right?
Yes, well, one of the things that being done in the first Trump administration, even before that, going back to the end of the Clinton administration, they repealed Glass-Steagall. I'm not sure if they got sort of cordial back it may be now. I don't think so now, because that's
Right. But what generates this bubble? It's just simply greed?
Greed, absolutely. People want to get rich quick. Work ethic, but people for the non-work ethic, they can get their money easily, and so they goes back to the tulip bubble in the 1600s in homes, and anything that looks like it might be something that keeps going up in price, people jump on it, and it keeps going up in price for no other reason than it's going up in price, and it's
Well, but now there are many more people in the stock market than there were in the 20s, and people have their 401ks in the stock market. So a crash today would be so much more devastating. It would wipe out millions and millions of people's retirement.
It certainly will be, and particularly given that the Trump administration is trying to take America back, and how far back remains to be seen. They've already worked on eliminating most of what was accomplished in the 1960s, trying to eliminate what was done during the New Deal. That would get us back to the 20s, but for so much more to come, money that they're getting would really be devastating.
But people's retirements will be wiped out. Would that include Social Security?
Well, there's no question that the Trump people want to destroy Social Security. They've tried, Republicans have tried many times before to privatize it. And look at how much you'll get by your Social Security being in the stock market. Yes, until the stock market collapses. And so they never got away with that before. But it seems like Trump believes that I alone can fix it. I am the president of the United States. I can do anything I want. And the people around him are certainly opposed to all that. In fact, one of the things that happened with the Great Depression and the New Deal was that the kind of classical economics totally dependent on the market, like God, that was completely discredited by the Great Depression. And for some decades after that, it didn't make a comeback because every time somebody would be suggesting we should just eliminate your different course, somebody would point out, yes, we did that, what would happen? Well, by the time you got into the 1970s, they had to explain how the Great Depression happened because in their view, the market is always right. And so if you didn't have regulations, I don't know, as a historian, I sort of think it's something that happens later to not quote something that happened earlier, and the collapse had come in 1929. One person on the right suggested that there was some story about the likelihood of tariffs going up on page 87 of the New York Times in October of 1929, and that, of course, was absurd. But they started playing it on that. And in 2007, Andy Schleyer wrote the book, The Forgotten Man, A New History of the Depression, which basically says the depression was caused by over-regulation, by the New Deal, by everything except what it really was caused by, which is the non-distribution of income, making it impossible for all that was being produced to be sold. What he was arguing for, and basically what the Trumpsters are arguing for these days, is social Darwinism. And again, social Darwinism, of course, is misnamed as anti-social Darwinism, as every man for himself, and that's what they want to get back to, and they've never come as close to doing it as they are in this current regime.
Just in closing then, Bob, we've never had a president this corrupt. Was Harding pales in comparison. And Hoover was a technocrat. Hoover was a mining engineer. So this guy is a complete crook. His family are enriching themselves to the tune of about $5 billion. They're letting foreign despots buy him through World Liberty Finance crypto vehicle that they have. And now, just to show you how arrogant this guy is and how entitled he feels, he's now asking the taxpayer to pay him $230 million compensation for the investigations from Mueller and Jack Smith, etc., to reinforce this idea that he's a witch hunt, when in fact it was based on the law and the government should escape. And he's a serial criminal.
The corruption is just, such a level of anything that's been seen before. You go to Harvard, you go to the Grant administration, but it was nothing compared to what's going on now. They are just breaking it in. Most people don't think that Trump was ever a billionaire until January or February, and now he has several billions that he's just sucked up through absolute corruption.
It's true, yeah. His reputation as a builder that he's actually destroyed. I thank you for joining us, Robert McIlvaine. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy talking with you.
And again, I've been speaking with Robert McIlvaine, who's Professor of History and Chair of Arts and Letters at Millsaps College. He's considered one of the world's leading historians of the era of the Great Depression and is the author of 10 books, including the Encyclopedia of the Great Depression and most recently The Times They Were A-Changing, 1964, the year the 60s arrived and the battle lines of today were drawn. He's currently completing a book on the Will of Working Time, an agreed-upon fiction, A New History of Power and Authority, how the lie of women's inferiority arose, shaped history, fuels authoritarianism today, and how exposing it can save democracy. And he writes the Substack column, Musings and Amusings. We're going to be station break back looking into how more and more Americans are waking up to the tearing down of the entire East Wing of the People's House to turn it into a glittering golden palace for Trump and his billionaire backers. Welcome back. I'm Ian Masters, and this is Background Briefing, available 24/7 at backgroundbriefing.org. And joining us now is Priya Jain, who is an associate professor in the Department of Architecture at Texas A&M University. She has worked on the reuse and restoration of a diverse range of historically significant buildings, including Trinity Church in Boston, St. Elizabeth's Hospital of the Department of Homeland Security in Washington, D.C., and Jaisalmer Fort in India, among others. She serves as the chair of the Heritage Conservation Committee of the Society of Architectural Historians, and her work is being supported by numerous grants from organizations like the Smithsonian Cooper Hewitt Design Museum, the Historic Preservation's Education Foundation, and the Melbourne G. Glassell Center for Humanities Research, among others. Welcome to Background Briefing, Priya Jain.
Thank you for having me.
So, Priya, I don't know how you feel about seeing footage of the destruction going on the East Wing and the White House. It's largely been kept away from cameras. The best view comes from the Treasury Department, and people in the Treasury Department have been told not to take photographs out of the window. But I think enough footage has been out there and for people to be a little uncomfortable. Just a little bit. The White House response has been the people who are objecting watching film definitely watching their doors. So, as an architectural historian, how does it strike you just watching pieces of this historic building?
Yes, so I mean, first I would say that, the organization which I'm first of the Society of Architectural Historians, it was founded in 1940 and serves a wide range of architects, architectural historians across the world. Individual membership of 2,300 people and another 600 institutional members, and we're present in we're members from all over the world. So we're a large cohort of people who are really passionate about architecture, architectural history, and historic preservation. So when this project was initially announced, we started getting some letters of concern from our membership about the potential impact of the bomb, and especially the scale and size of it on the historic exhibit building that had sheds. We added to those concerns for some collection which requires the federal government to initiate a comprehensive design review process. On whether the proposed design would not have any negative impacts on the historic building. I should note that this
In a quarter mile, turn left on South Stone Canyon Drive.
change to the exterior of the building since 1942, when the east wing was expanded and reconfigured. So because of that, we wanted to emphasize given the important nature of this building, that we would use advisory consultations should the other concern we raised was the impact to the
Turn left on South Stone Canyon Drive.
Since the rendering seemed to show that the addition would jerk out into the south wall, and we urged the administration to involve